Hi, this is Simone de Haas, the Speakers Director, coming to you live at 5. And today I'm going to share, in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to share with you 5 different tips that will help you take the stage in 2018. So if you'd like some speaking tips on what you can do to actually improve your speaking prowess or grow your business through the model of speaking and adding speaking to your business model, then come and join me for Live at 5 every afternoon at 5 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So today's 5 tips are all to do with speech starters. Now, these can be speech or story or presentation or workshop. This is pretty much across the board, any kind of live presentation that you are doing. So speech starters, and that's quite a good tongue twister if you want to practice some. So here we go with my 5 speech starters and your tips for today. So the first speech starter is to ask a question. Now, it's really easy to engage with your audience when you ask a question. What happens then is that you immediately get their attention. There's no slacking off. Suddenly they have to put their phones away. They've got to pay attention to you. So they immediately come into your world. Asking a question is a great way to kick off a presentation or a speech. It really creates instant engagement with your audience. And the question can be something to do, obviously, with your topic. It can be something to do with something that you know is a problem for your audience. So you might say, hands up, those of you who XYZ. And what you really want to pay attention to is ask questions in numbers of like 3. So 3 questions in a row. Who would like to have XYZ? How would it be if you ask 3 questions? There's magic in the power of 3, whether it's 3 questions, 3 call and response. So the first speech starter, ask a question. Number 2, start with maybe a quote or something that you really speaks to you. One of the things that I often do in networking meetings, I have a wonderful quote that I love. It's been attributed to a number of people, particularly Fred Shero. And the quote is, to be a success is not a result of spontaneous combustion. You must first set yourself on fire. Now, I love that quote because it speaks about igniting people's interest and creating a bit of a spark, that kind of thing. And so I'll often use that when people ask me what I do. So if you have a favourite quote, have a look at how you can introduce that right at the beginning of your speech to create some intrigue and captivate your audience. That's number 2. Number 3, start with a story. Now, when I say start with a story, I'm not talking about the once upon a time kind of story, like, a fable or a myth or a legend. We're not talking about fairy tales here. We're talking about your story. So elements of your personal story. So you might start with something that perhaps drops your audience right into the middle of the story. Doesn't have to be the beginning of a story or even the end. You might drop them right into the middle of the story. And you might say, so there I was sitting in the floor surrounded by headless bodies and arms and legs, or something like that. Now, that's actually the opening line of a book, and it's a great opening line, and I've misquoted it terribly, for which I apologize to the author. But the idea is that you give them something really meaty right at the beginning of your speech, something that hooks their interest. And of course, a personal story or an excerpt or an anecdote is a great way to create a hook for your audience. So that's tip number 3, start with a story. Tip number 4, you could pose a problem. So posing the problem is also similar to asking a question, where you might say, have you ever? So you ask the question, you ask again, so that you get people nodding. You want people agreeing with you. You want people to be nodding their heads going, yes, I've had that. Because what happens then is they immediately get drawn into your world because they think, right, well, Simone might have the solution to this. So have you ever struggled? So a way that I might do it as an example is, have you ever struggled with knowing how to start a speech? Are you confused by the many different ways that you can start a story? If so, you're in the right place. And then I would add maybe a third question so that I have that, again, that power of 3. So pose a problem. So what is the problem that you are there to help your audience resolve? That was tip number 4. And tip number 5, now this is a really interesting one, and it blends in again with posing a problem or asking a question. You can actually set the audience up where you get them to look backwards and get them to look forward. So looking back and looking forward would be 2 elements of this paradigm change that you are creating. So here is how we have perceived this particular problem in the past. This is what we have done to date. Here is the future that we are looking to create. And today in my presentation, I'm going to take you from that problem in the past. I'm going to show you the way to this future solution. And that future can be right now, right here. And I'm going to share with you some tips on how you can do that. So getting your audience to look back and then look forward to a future is a great way for them to see also where your presentation is going to take them. And that audiences get great comfort in getting a sense of where your presentation is going to go, where your speech is taking them. They'll feel a little more comfortable and a little more settled. So to just recap on my 5 tips, take your audience to look back and then look forward into the future. Tip number 1. Number 2, share an inspirational quote. Tip number 3, start with a story. It can be yours and it can be an excerpt, or it can be a case study. It could be a client story, or it could be a story from a celebrity or another figure. Somebody who you connect with, though, is very useful. Tip number 4, ask a question. All right, get that audience engaged with you immediately. And then finally, pose a problem. Tip number 5, pose a problem for your audience to solve along with you through the course of your presentation or speech. So there you go. There's my 5 in 5. I hope you've enjoyed the presentation today, and join me again tomorrow for Live at 5. And if you want to take the stage in 2018, then join me for my Take the Stage Masterclass, kicking off on Thursday, the 25th of January, online, so you can join from anywhere in the world. I look forward to your company and looking forward to helping you take the stage in 2018. I'm Simone de Haas, the Speakers Director. Bye for now.